Hi, I'm Jesse Bifulco, host of the Life Counsel podcast. As an estate planning lawyer, I've helped families save millions of dollars by avoiding estate planning pitfalls. But estate planning is more than just saving money. It's about preventing unnecessary family conflicts. Join me as I share real-life stories from my experience, illustrating the why behind estate planning in a clear and engaging way. Through these stories, you'll learn valuable lessons and practical tips that not only save money, but also help maintain family harmony. Today, we focus on the dilemma faced by family-owned businesses. How do the parents leave an inheritance when not all the kids work in the business? Welcome to Life Counsel, where we teach through storytelling and make complex topics relatable and easy to understand. Keep listening, and you'll hear yourself or someone you know. In our story today, we'll meet Frank. Frank has achieved the American dream. He had an idea. The idea became a business. Frank and his wife, Carol, worked hard at the business while they raised a family. Their business grew as their family grew, and one day, Frank and Carol found themselves at a kind of pinnacle. Yes, they made it. Their business generates big income and is worth a lot of money. But there's a catch. They have 3 children and only one business. That business is the largest and most valuable part of their estate. After Frank and Carol are gone, they want their kids and grandchildren to benefit. They want the kids to get equal shares. But one of their children, Drew, has been working in the business for years. The other 2 have different jobs and different careers. They'll never work in the business. The business can't be broken into 3 pieces. If it's used to fund the other 2 children's inheritance, it will surely fail. How do you leave them equal shares without breaking up the business? How do you reward the child who worked at the business without shorting the other 2? How do you retire and enjoy some of the rewards of the business? Keep listening to find out. Family-owned businesses face a stark reality when it comes to generational succession. Only 3 in 7 successfully transition from the founder to the next generation. From there, the odds get even worse. Only around 12% of family businesses successfully make it through the transition from the second generation to the third. By the time you reach the 4th generation, fewer than 5% remain intact. These numbers show just how mission-critical good planning is if you want your family business to continue after you're gone. Another stark reality is that without a plan, if something happens to the owner, like an unexpected illness or death, the value of the business may be severely compromised, going to the highest bidder in a fire sale, or falling apart with no value left. So planning is really important with a family-owned business. And think about this. Many family-run business founders live off the income of that still going concern in their retirement. If that's you, do you want to gamble with your retirement? In the story of how not to do family-owned business planning, or what I call the hidden costs of poor succession planning, you'll learn the better way to plan when your estate consists of a family business. You should listen to this podcast until the end to learn how to get tax-free income from your family-owned business as part of your business succession plan. Your business was worth nothing when you started it, so guess what? When you sell it, the IRS and maybe even the state you live in are going to have to take a big chunk in taxes when you sell. Depending on your income and the state you're in, if you sell your business, the taxes will be between 1/4 to as much as 40% of the sale right off the top, leaving you with less money than you need to keep living the lifestyle that your business earns for you. If you listen until the end of this podcast, I'll reveal a way that you could keep more tax-free money as part of your succession plan. This is a technique that has helped many successful business owners retire and allow their business to succeed at the same time. Okay, so how to how not to do family-owned business planning, or the hidden costs of poor succession planning. Let me introduce you to the people in our story. Frank is 68 with the physique of a bodybuilder and a perpetual tan from working outside. Frank is a self-made entrepreneur who built a successful landscaping garden supply business from the ground up. Frank is known for his dedication, integrity, and hard work, and maybe being a little too focused on the business. Frank is married to Carol. Carol's 66. Carol helped Frank build the business and was there from the beginning. Even though Carol's father did not have faith in Frank's ability to succeed, she saw the potential in him and stuck with it when the business looked like it might fail. Carol did the books and billing, and as they made more money and hired more people, Carol was able to spend more time and focus on their 3 children. Carol is eager to finally enjoy retirement with her husband and spend more time with their grandchildren. Frank and Carol have 3 grown children, Drew, Hannah, and Mike. All 3 have children of their own. Frank and Carol's oldest son, Drew, is 40. Drew is headstrong like his father. He didn't like school and signed himself out of high school to work for another company when his father convinced him to come work in the family business. Drew has worked tirelessly at the business alongside Frank for over 15 years, expecting to eventually take over. Drew has 2 children and is married. Drew's wife, Joanne, reminds Carol of herself in her smarts and dedication to the family. Joanne is constantly asking Drew when his father is going to legally sign the business over to him. Joanne started doing the bookkeeping and billing when Frank's landscaping when Carol retired. Hannah is the middle child, a single mother who doesn't own her own home. It seems like Hannah never has enough money and has gone from job to job. Presently, Hannah is a substitute teacher working on getting her teaching license. She secretly resents Drew because he was given a car when he graduated from high school with a mere GED diploma. And she wasn't even given a car, even though she got straight A's and was a valedictorian. Hannah's father, Frank, gave Drew the car precisely because Drew didn't go to college. He spent a lot more on Hannah's expensive liberal arts degree. The youngest son, Mike, is 35. Mike is quiet, and having seen how hard it was for his father to run his own business, Mike decided to work for big corporations instead. Mike is an extremely successful software developer. He has no interest in the landscaping industry, but he'd feel hurt if he received less than 1/3 of his parents' estate, even though he doesn't need the money. Mike has many fond memories of the family vacation home at the shore. He brings his kids to his parents' beach house every summer to do with his kids the things his parents did with him and his siblings when they were kids. The beach house time is the only time Mike sees his parents and his brother and sister, and his children really enjoy that time with their cousins and grandparents. The other person in this little drama is Tom. Tom is Frank's longtime CPA and trusted advisor. Tom is a great accountant, but is unfamiliar with complex estate planning techniques. Tom greatly values the respect his clients have for him. When his successful, now wealthy clients like Frank come to Tom for advice, Tom feels honored and privileged, but also a bit of a swelled head. Tom's jealous of his position as their chief advisor. Tom has lost good clients to other professionals over the years and so has not developed any relationships with allied professionals like estate planning lawyers, insurance brokers, or investment advisors. Tom manages his own affairs well enough, so he feels confident in giving advice to his clients in areas outside of accounting. Tom likes to point out that he once had a client whose lawyer gave him some bad advice about a beneficiary designation on an IRA, so Tom's wary of lawyers who profess to be experts. Act 1, The American Dream. In Act 1, The American Dream realized, here we are in their master bedroom. Frank and Carol are getting ready for Frank's 68th birthday party. Frank picks up the invitation to his party. Carol used a picture of Frank in his old beater pickup Ford truck as the cover of the birthday party invitation. "Remember this?" Frank says. Carol answers, "Of course I remember. I made the invitation." Frank replies, "I mean when we started out. We were kids ourselves. All we had was that pickup truck and a couple of used lawnmowers. Boy, if your father could see me now. You did the books and the billing. I sold the jobs and did the landscaping. It was hard, but things were less complicated." Carol says, "Now you're the biggest company in 3 townships. You have government contracts and supply other companies. Yeah, I thank God for our blessings. Now get dressed. I have to go pick up the cake." Once Carol leaves, instead of getting ready, Frank grabs his mobile phone, sees a message from work, and makes some work calls. Upon her return, Carol discovers Frank's still working and not dressed yet. "Frank, aren't you ready yet?" Frank replies, "I just have to make this one more phone call. Tony has to cover that big order for the nursery in Park Slip." Carol pleads, "Frank, the party starts in an hour. You're the guest of honor and you're not even dressed." Finally, exasperated, Carol takes the phone away from Frank and sits him down. "Listen, Frank, this has to end." "What do you mean?" Frank says. Carol answers, "We're not getting any younger, and you work more each year rather than less. I know you enjoy your work, but we need to take some time for ourselves before we're too old to enjoy it." Frank replies, I know, but Drew still needs me at the company. There are things we're working on." Carol is firm. "No, I mean it, Frank. This is it. You're going to do something about this, or I am." Act 2, Seeds of Family Conflict. At Frank's birthday party in the country club event room, after the guests have left, only Frank, Carol, and their 3 children remain. The whole family's together. They reminisce about a beach vacation they took when the kids were little. Since summers were Frank's busy season, they don't have many memories of him being there. But this one time, Frank and Carol were together and entered the kids in a sandcastle making contest. Carol says, "I remember how nice you kids were together." Frank adds, "Yeah, you always stuck up for one another. When Mike was getting bullied at the sandcastle building contest, Drew and Hannah pushed that other kid down." Carol laughed. "You were like his bodyguards, kindergarten enforcers. Remember Mike when he tutored Drew and Hannah in math? He was so patient. I always thought he'd become the teacher." Frank says, "And Drew taught them both how to drive." Mike says, "Dad, you are always working." "Always was and still is," chides Carol. The topic changes to Frank's landscaping business. Without realizing it, the family's contemplating life after Frank at the business and life after Frank and Carol. Frank quietly listens as Drew passionately discusses expanding the business, clearly invested in its future. Mike, overhearing this conversation, jokingly says he'll just sell his third. Hannah laughs and says, "I'll come work there and finally get a company car." Later that evening, taking her jewelry off in the master bedroom, Carol gently broaches the topic. "Frank, what happens when we're gone? How do we make this fair? Frank, I don't want our passing to break up our family." Frank, taking off his tuxedo, jokes, "We'll just spend it all before we're gone. That way there's nothing to fight about." "Be serious, Frank," says Carol. What does Frank do? He does what we all do when faced with a serious, complex issue. He puts off making any decisions. Frank is great at his work and loves his job, so he just works more and uses that as an excuse not to think about his estate plan. But after Carol reminds him a few more times to placate his wife, Frank makes an appointment with his advisor, Tom, the CPA. Act 3, The Breaking Point. Frank discusses his concerns with Tom, his longtime accountant. Tom, the CPA, suggests the simplest option, that Frank make out a last will splitting the company equally between 3 kids. Not a good idea. Frank reluctantly agrees, uncomfortable but unsure of what else to do. After all, he wasn't given any options, right? Ever since his conversations with Carol, Frank's Facebook feed has been full of ads for do-it-yourself estate planning. It's uncanny how they pop up after talking about it. Convinced of their value from the celebrities in the commercials, Frank puts 50 cents into the internet and out pops a sweetheart will. The will says that Frank leaves everything to his entire estate to his wife Carol if Carol survives him. After both Carol and he are gone, the estate is split 3 ways between his 3 children. He makes Tom, the CPA, his executor. Because the work email is Frank's only email address, and Joanne, Drew's wife, Frank's daughter-in-law, is a key employee of the business, and guess what? Joanne accidentally opens the last will emailed to Frank and reads Frank's last will. Drew, after a week of brooding, dirty looks, and his wife Joanne urging her husband to speak up, Drew confronts his dad about the will. "I've given you everything, Dad. Remember when I was in high school and you kept saying that if I worked hard, I'd succeed like you did? I trusted you and took your advice. You invited me here and I worked hard. We worked together. I've turned down other opportunities. But when you're gone, I have to share my business with my sister and brother who never spent a day here?" Frank wanted to say to Drew, "But you and Joanne receive a salary. You're not volunteers. Your sister Hannah's husband turned out to be a bad seed and left her with nothing. She deserves so much better, and I know you care about your sister. She's working very hard and doesn't seem to get ahead. And Mike would be so hurt if we didn't leave him anything. He'd probably not take the gift, but to disinherit him?" But instead of saying those things to Drew, Frank just bit his tongue and popped a handful of Tums. Act 4, A Better Way Forward. If Frank listened to the Life Counsel podcast, he would have taken a better way forward, a better route. First, he'd learned that there are other planning techniques out there. Remember, the Life Counsel way is to get knowledge first. At least knowing the names and concepts is a good first start. Why? Because you don't know what you don't know. That's why I'm here. I'm here to tell you. But remember, estate planning saves people millions and sometimes tens or even hundreds of millions of dollars. It also avoids family conflicts. Estate planning can't do all that without being a little complicated. Frank's clients hired him knowing that he made beautiful landscapes. They hired him because they could not do what he does themselves. They also hired him because he had experience and a stellar reputation. It's the same thing with estate planning lawyers. That's why the Life Counsel method is never to do it yourself. This is not about DIY. It's not about trying to get forms off the internet. It's about identifying the issues and knowing there is a solution, and then getting qualified expert estate planning help to make your plan. Here's what might have happened if Frank had been listening to the Life Counsel podcast. He would have learned that there are techniques, that he needs a succession plan for his business. He needs an estate plan that looks at his tax efficiency for his retirement, for his gifting, and for the possible sale of the business. So let's rewrite the ending so it comes out the right way. After the family tension comes to a head, Carol, who has been listening to the Life Counsel podcast, urges Frank to seek professional advice from a specialist estate planning attorney. Not just any estate planning attorney, but one that deals with family-owned or closely held businesses. They vet potential lawyers, choosing one based on their experience and expertise, and also interviews. They ask the lawyer if one of his clients will give permission to talk to Frank and Carol about his experience, and find that yes, 2 or 3 retired business owners are happy to chat with Carol and Frank about their business succession experience. They schedule an estate planning meeting with their chosen estate planning attorney. In their meeting, the lawyer explains clearly and compassionately how a trust or a well-structured buy-sell agreement could help. A combination of a limited liability company and a trust allows Drew control of the business operations without his siblings' interference, while providing Mike and Hannah a steady, fair financial benefit. A clearly drafted buy-sell agreement can specify terms for Drew to buy out his siblings' share gradually at a fair, predetermined valuation, using business profits rather than cash up front, which could break the business. Or perhaps life insurance or other assets can help equalize inheritances, so Drew isn't forced to liquidate or strain the business by diverting cash flow. In listening to Frank and Carol talk fondly about their beach house, the estate planning lawyer realizes it's not just an asset, but a place of family gatherings and family continuity. The lawyer suggests they consider having special instructions just for the beach house, just for the family vacation home. The estate planning attorney suggests a way for the kids and grandkids to use and share the beach house for generations to come and offset the carrying charges so that even Hannah can afford to use it with her brothers. It will help keep the family together after Frank and Carol are gone, instead of causing friction and conflict. Frank sees clearly for the first time that simply leaving equal shares will jeopardize his and Carol's retirement and unintentionally ruin both his family's harmony and the thriving business he built. He worked so hard to build from scratch. Act 5, Securing the Family Legacy. Frank and Carol choose to implement a trust-based succession plan combined with a buy-sell agreement. Drew gets operational control. Mike and Hannah retain financial interests without feeling slighted, and Frank finally feels relief. This is the first day he hasn't eaten Tums in over a month. A brief scene months later shows Frank and Carol in Florida, taking the grandkids to Disney and then a cruise just with each other, finally taking the honeymoon they couldn't afford when they got married, and finally enjoying peace of mind, knowing their hard-earned legacy and their family is secured. Okay, end of story. The end. Now I'm going to reveal the technique that I promised in the beginning for those who listen all the way to the end. Let's imagine that in Frank's story, none of his children wanted to take over the business. Frank can't sell the business because he'll pay close to 40% in taxes on the sale. He's got a great key employee who would love to buy the business, except the employee cannot afford to pay what it's worth, even if Frank would sell it. Or maybe Frank has a child who wants to buy the business but cannot afford to pay for it, and Frank can't afford to just give it away. He needs retirement income. Is there a possible technique to help solve this problem? Okay. So in the beginning, I said that I'd reveal an estate planning technique that could give Frank a ton more money than simply selling his business, tax-free income for use during his retirement, or even to build up his estate for inheritance. This technique, if used properly, can allow for the reduced tax transfer of an appreciated asset, closely held business to a new owner. This may alleviate concerns about retirement income or the ability of a new owner to afford to buy your business. The technique is called an ESOP. It's a very complex strategy, and so it's not something that can be adequately explained in a podcast, but it is important to know it exists if you're in Frank's situation or a similar situation. Okay, so in the next episode, we'll show you 5 things you can do right now to make sure your estate plan is in good shape. These are the top 5 biggest mistakes people make. You'll be surprised at how many of these mistakes your estate plan makes. I'm Jesse Bifulco, the host of the Life Counsel Estate Planning Podcast. Thank you.